everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Love G. This is the show where we talk all about being in our 20s, being young, being in love, and just feeling it all, living it all, doing it all. Yeah, that's why I'm here. And today I'm admittedly struggling quite a bit with my mental health, with feeling good about myself. I'm not having a good body image day. And it's always funny that in these instances I look for answers. Like when I'm not feeling mentally clear is when I try to solve these issues for myself, or have some sort of major epiphany. And I've learned that honestly one of the best things I can do for myself is to go back to my words, because there are times I've found peace and clarity within myself and have created true meaning through that. And all of that being said, I want to read you a little essay that I wrote last year on love, and it's called Summer of Love: Romance, Cravings, and the Beauty of Youth. So let's get into it. Spring. Growing up, I'd get this funny feeling in my stomach in the springtime, when the doors opened after the last class of the day to the newfound warmth, supplemented by a subtle breeze and the smell of fresh blossoms. It always seemed to come up out of nowhere, like somehow everything had changed during ninth period. A revival had taken place. I'd say it was something along the lines of nausea, but out of excitement, like a hole was opening in me, drawing in a new air and offering me a hypersensitivity to the otherwise bleak familiarity of a hometown like mine. It was hopeful. In 8th grade, I began to identify this feeling with the schoolgirl crush that became my sole focus for a few months. I talked about him endlessly and swung my legs off the bleachers at his soccer games. It didn't work out, but springtime nonetheless took on a certain place in my mind and body. The giddiness, reminiscent of girlhood, which for a time lived in me only through a sense of nostalgia. A fleeting sensation that arose, though murky, in those early spring days. All at once, I'd remember her, the secret romantic. She placed her faith in elevator flirtations and rock star-esque boys at that Motley Crue show she ended up at somehow. She'd entangle black bows in her hair, sign her name with a small black heart. But she was impatient, and the world had left her quite cynical, not to mention quite hormonal. Senior prom. I went with one of my best friends. I'd found a black Calvin Klein gown that somehow fit me perfectly despite its origins on a clearance rack in a closing Neiman Marcus store. Morning of, I got my hair straightened. I then did my own makeup and stayed in my room until my mom called me down. That whole time I stood before the mirror debating if I was beautiful or not. I determined I was not, and thought my friend was only being nice when he called me his hot date upon my less than cinematic descent down the stairs. We slow danced, and he put his rented tuxedo jacket around my shoulders when I got cold. Recently, I found my corsage when cleaning my childhood bedroom. I thank him endlessly for this memory. It was one break in the narrative of not being chosen, or as far as I know, even considered. I've only just given myself permission to grieve this fact, and the numerous other firsts and experiences I pretended not to care about. I watched from afar through many springs, the feeling surfacing just enough to remind me it was there, before disappearing as a promise I never really believed until, like clockwork, it appeared the following year. I can pinpoint the exact day and time it returned this year, March 26th, around 6 p.m. I leaned up against the metal fence, arms crossed and head tilted playfully as I saw him for the first time. My blonde boy. I first noticed his teeth. I think often of the girl he must have seen through the windshield, made up and donning her favorite black sweater, trying her best to play the teasing character she'd established. She got the sense he could see right through her, and goddamn was that refreshing. In fact, it's the reason he was the one pulling into her driveway that evening. She'd spent that winter knowing a loneliness like no other, an icy blue that deepened in the nights. But she'd somehow become okay with that, and she stood there that spring evening, the most self-assured, confident version of herself she'd ever been. For the first time, she'd been ready for another heart, another mind. Well, she thought she was. Can you ever really be ready? In April, I confessed my feelings. I've yet to be the same. Summer. Summer I associate with the color red, a transient shade, sometimes burgundy, sometimes scarlet. Guess it depends which way you hold it up against the August sun. Red, kiss prints and strobing club lights, moving slickly over glimmering, dancing bodies. Flickering candles beside open windows, midnight letters full of the most honest of words. Blushed cheeks and swollen lips, preserved rose petals, mouths closing around the delicate skin of sweet cherries. A distant sunset overtaking the sky above, playing house and eating dinner on the front porch. Skin to skin, the warmth of a lover's arms in the morning. The fire, the impossible blazing fire. This summer is red, for it is the summer of love. Everything I've ever loved at one point has been an obsession. After all, I do have my mother's self-proclaimed addictive personality, which is why I cook the same meals on repeat and only allow myself to smoke when I'm really drunk. That obsessive nature is likely dangerous, but for the moment I'll call it passionate. A passion that shall guide me in my musings, as I try to make sense of my life in the heat and haze. I once thought of romance as normalcy. You were normal if boys thought you were pretty and told you so over text, even if they didn't talk to you in person. You were normal if you had your first kiss on a dare and lost your virginity in high school. You were normal if you got a proposal in the cafeteria and grieved a breakup in the first week of college, before lacing up your least favorite sneakers and heading off to a frat house. By those standards, I was abnormal. A self-inflicted title that infiltrated my every thought and distorted my own reflection. I'm 22, an age marked by youth and indecision. But 22 and awaiting the one thing you've held as your dark little secret since childhood. Now that'll make you feel old and trapped. And how, then, was I to be regarded by anyone, especially the boys I place on their pedestal of normalcy? Things come so naturally to them, at least from my perspective. They have other names in their phone, other tastes on their lips. So how am I to ever accept the concept of being chosen? These were the thoughts that plagued me in my hidden romanticism. They still make themselves known at incredibly unhelpful times, stealing me away. I retreat into my head and blame my acne scars or whichever curve my insecurities traced that day. But then I'm stolen back into the light of the sun, and I take it for what it is. A gift, an envelope fallen into my lap, addressed to me in loopy ink. Unexpected, uncertain, and enchanting. Now I know there's nothing normal in love. Instinctual, yes. Essential, sure. But normal? Absolutely not. It's a culmination of cravings and intensities, grounded by consistency. The vulnerability of a need, the loyalty of delivering on another's need. It's late-night phone calls, visions of a future, being reminded of them in places they've never even been. Spring opening to summer. It's feeling safe in silence again. Time is sped up or slowed down or stopped altogether. It's the relinquishing of control crying in their presence, fearing their loss like a physical threat. Summer fading to autumn. Nothing in this world, not even the poetry of the most ingenious wordsmith, could capture it. So how could it possibly be deduced to normalcy? Simple as that. It can't. Love becomes everything. And I'd say I discovered such a truth this summer. But that would be a lie. It's the summer of love, but this is the life of a lover girl. And she's only 22. That's not said to diminish the 22 years she's lived, though, for she's been experiencing many forms of love her entire life. Love she's dismissed, not seeing how each love informs the next. Naive girl, too lost in her own tragedy to get it. Now she's 22 and has a way of seeing things for how they are. The magic of 22. To wake up not knowing where I'll be living 2 months from now. To have a favorite lipstick shade and spend my Sundays writing self-indulgent essays in coffee shops. To dress up for the fun of it, dedicate weekends to my girlfriends, and drink one too many Cosmos but still wake up for an early morning run. To have a dwindling bank account that is cast aside in favor of a handwritten list of places I dream of traveling to. To be 22, and to have known love so helplessly. Before I'd even been kissed, I'd fallen in love. With art, words, history, the stars, cities, oceans, movies, nightclubs, cappuccinos, restaurants with red leather booths, high heels, indie music, cameras, thrifting, driving, swimming, running. Most of all, I've fallen for moments, both the mundane and the extraordinary, the moments that are forever immortalized because of the meaning I've assigned them. I've known the love of a mother, a father, grandparents, dogs, friends, a neighbor turned best friend, aunts, uncles, cousins, teachers, even quick exchanges that feel less than destined but make me smile anyhow. The old woman who cheers me on when I run past, or the cashier who compliments my outfit. And I'm here now, in this summer, knowing full well I'm here because I fell for myself. I gave myself a chance to be seen and felt and kissed, and because of it all, loved. I am but a girl who's known the worst of loss, too, having lost the woman who brought me into this world. The first to show me unconditional love. Goodbyes scare the hell out of me now, as they each feel like a unique death. I fear grieving the living, falling into dissonance with someone my breath, my name was once synonymous. Even worse, the loss of self, the extinguishing of the sacred flame. Yet I let myself be shaken, stand on shaky ground that is, in celebration of the risk. Here, I shall bask in my own breakability. For I am a collective of all I love, and all I have loved, and all I have yet to love. Now I think of love when I see a girl on her bedroom floor, delicately folded over atop a heap of fabric, running a gentle brushstroke across her skin. She sees the fullness of her cheeks, the blues of her eyes, the contrast to her dark curls. Time doesn't exist to her. She hums that song that she can't get out of her head and sips from the wine glass on the ground beside her. She determines she's beautiful. Love started with her, and with her it shall remain endless. And what a lush, romantic story that is. I wrote that one, like I said, last year, inspired by being in my first adult relationship, being in love for the first time. And as I wrote it, I challenged myself to delve into the fear and the intensity of being in love and the, varying ways that comes up and what that looks like. And it became more so a meditation on self-love and learning to believe yourself worthy of love for no reason other than you are who you are. And it also made me redefine love and to realize that I know a lot about love because I've been on that journey of loving myself. So, yeah. Thank you for letting me share that one with you. I like to go back and read that one, especially when I'm struggling with my feelings towards myself. So, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed. If you like me reading these little essays to you, I would be happy to do that more. Also, if you want to read more of my work, these are all from my Substack, which is also called Love G. So I will link to that in the episode description, and I will see you next week. Bye, everybody.